Albert Einstein famously said that creativity is intelligence having fun. I think it's much deeper than that. Creativity is the root of human existence. Humans are differentiated from other animal species because of our creative ability to problem solve. Hunter-gatherers figured out how to build fire, how to make fire, and ancient Sumerians figured out insanely complex irrigation systems so that they could have sustainable crops and wouldn't have to move around. And then Hammurabi in ancient Mesopotamia and ancient Babylon created his own code, which basically punished everyone by death if they didn't follow orders. But it was the first law, and they created law. All these things that seem so simple now were once creative endeavors that were the first of their kind. And one thing that I find amazing is how humans continually compound their creative level. Researchers say that creativity, if measured by innovation, is actually increasing at an exponential rate. Creativity is amazing, and now we take a lot for granted, but humans continue to power society through creativity. So that leads me to the question, why does it seem like we don't put that much value on it as a society? In our education system in the United States, we have music and art classes that just feel really secondary to core subjects such as math and science and English. And I think that we really drive creativity out of kids from a young age, and that's proven. Kids are much more creative and willing to do things differently than other people and be unique before they're put into a system that really standardizes things. But this is pessimistic towards the American school system. But a little anecdote I'd like to add is that the United States does it pretty well compared to many countries. I was talking to a kid from Germany today, and he says that, well, the way I think about it, like, they place importance on the sciences even more than we do. They say that the American school is easy and unsuccessful because of certain metrics on international tests. And so the world as a whole places values on education on how much math can we teach these students, how much science can we teach these students. And I think that's completely bass-backwards, as I like to say. Like, if creativity is one of the main pillars of our existence and our ability to thrive as a species, and why are we not putting value on that and feeding that to kids from a young age? Because that's one of our biggest natural abilities as humans, creativity, and we smother that. And so another thing that goes along with this is I was wondering what creativity even is, because what scientists are saying, I'm pulling this up from an article right now from the American Psychiatric Association. It says that the ultimate goal is to figure out how to enhance creativity in a systematic way, because we need to know what creativity is beforehand, though, if we want to enhance it. But I think that's a good goal. Like, if we can figure out a way to enhance creativity honestly, I think we could develop our society even more. But to take an opposite stance on creativity, and the reason I've been thinking about it so much is that I feel like my own creativity and my inability to deal with it has led me to struggle. I think creativity is both a blessing and a curse to an individual, where creative people can have so many ideas floating around their head that they have trouble sticking to one. I had a conversation with a friend the other day that says, he told me that he's always getting new ideas that he wants to pounce on, he wants to do, but he's never actually making the time to create those ideas and put them into reality. Because he has the ability to envision stuff in his head, he doesn't necessarily take the time to make those ideas real in front of him and materialize. A lot of creative people, myself included, always are bouncing around from one thing to the other, weighing things in your head. But your head is a bias. It's just bias. I was trying to think of a noun, but your own mind is biased. You're never going to know until you test something. And so I'm reading this book by Ray Dalio right now. It's called Principles. There goes my highlighter. It's phenomenal. But he talks a lot about the archetype of a shaper. A shaper is someone like Steve Jobs, who had a great idea but was also able to put it into place and manage people to create it and make it reality. One of my favorite Alex Hormozy quotes is, "You can measure the power of a person by how fast their idea becomes reality." And so shapers are the ones that are great at that. They're the ones that have very great ideas and are very creative, but are able to turn that into reality. And what he said in this book is, shapers are extremely resilient because their need to achieve what they envision is stronger than the pain they experience as they struggle to achieve it. I think that a lot of creative people get stuck in their head in that perfect world, and they see their ideas as being this perfect thing. And then when they go to put it into reality, they realize, oh, it's not perfect. They encounter obstacles. They realize, oh, this is actually hard, right? In your head, it's rare that you're going to come up with all of the challenges that you face in real life, because it's your head, right? Things are gonna be biased towards perfection on that side of the scale. And so I think a lot of shapers struggle to have that, or not shapers. Shapers are the ones that are good at it. A lot of creative people struggle to have that resiliency to fight through setbacks because they've never had to deal with them before. They never had to deal with them in their head. So a lot of great ideas get squashed, and a lot of human potential gets squashed because of the lack of ability of creative people to put things into action, or the lack of support around them, because creative people don't have to be the ones to put it into action. They just need people to help them do it. But if they encounter too much difficulty before they can actually put it into action, they won't get it done. And so think about all the ideas we've lost because of humans' inabilities to put their ideas into reality. And then think about a sustainable solution for that. I think a sustainable solution for that takes us back to the beginning of this, where we talked about education around creativity. In school, I'm currently in high school, and I think as you get older, you have more opportunity to do as you wish, at least in the United States, and be creative with your curriculum and base things around your interests. But part of the reason that creativity is squashed from a young age is that you're making kids do things that they don't want to do. I know personally, if I have to do something I don't want to do, I'm going to just try to get it done as fast as I can in the way that people told me to. This is if I can't figure out a way to get out of it. But think about it. We're putting 5-year-old kids in kindergarten and saying, you have to learn this, this, and this, and you have to do it, and we're going to measure you on these certain metrics. I mean, think about if someone brought you into like a doctor's office and made you study what they're doing and how they're doing it, even if you hate doctor's offices or going to hospitals or whatever, right? You're not going to feel your creative juices flowing, you know? And so by putting kids who have these palpable minds that are so full of these creative just ideas and making them do stuff that they don't want to do, I think that's a recipe for just squashing creativity in humans in general. And so I think that solutions for this are creating different paths for kids at a young age. If we can create multiple different types of schools, so like from a young age, or introduce kids to many different paths at a young age, they'll be able to choose what makes them feel most alive. I know that as a kid, I hated writing and reading because I was forced to do certain things. So if we eliminate the forcing kids to do things they don't want to do from school, we might be able to unlock more of that creativity. The one thing that it might not unlock, though, is that resilience. Because if we're constantly feeding kids this, what they want, when are they ever going to develop the resilience they need to combat challenges that come along their way of creating their vision? And so this is the debate I've been having in my head for the past week. How can we create an environment where we raise kids to be creative but also resilient? Because I think that my resiliency has come from doing things that I don't want to do and forcing myself to do them, but I was the one that forced myself to do these things, not other people. So independence is key in creating people that are creative and want to move forward with their ideas. I think that our idea of associating creativity with art and music, although those are very creative subjects, we can tie creativity more into the subjects that, like math and science, and especially writing. Writing can be very creative. But if we stop this association of creativity goes to art and sciences and humanities and whatever, and the rigid brain people go to like math and all that, then we might be able to unlock more creativity in certain fields as well. Right now I'm looking up right and left brain because this is something I've been thinking about a lot with this. Like, it is scientifically proven that we have people that are right-brained, which is the creative, intuitive, artistic, nonverbal, emotional, imaginative people. And then we have left-brain people who are the logical, linear, verbal, factual, sequential people, and who are probably more likely to succeed in a math, rigid, science-based course, and hate a art, creative course. I think it's interesting when something's assigned, when there's a project assigned, for example, at school, and you see the kids that are those left brain, and they're like, oh shoot, now I have to create an art piece or do something different from what I'm used to. Can't I just write an essay on this? I've been like that before, where people just want structure, and when something's open, they struggle. But then those people that are open and are more right brain, they hate those structured things. So it's really interesting that as a culture in education, we really forced people to learn in one way, while people actually learn best in many different ways. And we ignore that. We've almost compromised. But what a compromise is let's say, I'm like, two people want this marker and it's cap or something like that, and one person gets the marker and one person gets the cap. Obviously marker's better deal, whatever, I'm just showing. But if we could collaborate and figure out a way to make everyone happy and get their best learning, we get everything in one. We don't have to settle. I think that our culture is settled for subpar education because we aren't giving fully right-brained people what they need, and we aren't giving fully left-brained people what they need. We're not giving creative people the creative education they need to help propel creativity in the future, and we're not giving right-brained people or left-brained people the logical, mathematic education they need, because we also want to appeal to the right brains. We need to stop fence sitting, make a decision, and figure out a way that we can bring everyone up without capping people. All right, that's kind of done for that part of the discussion. But it brings me to another thing, which is, remember when I was talking about the German guy I talked to earlier? So we're going to stay on this subject of education because I like it. What we talked about is that in Germany and in many European countries, you see the French flag there. I went to France for a year. I did a year abroad, and I studied at a French high school. And you had very little autonomy in your education, by which I mean you couldn't choose really what you did. You couldn't challenge yourself by choice. Everybody took the same level classes, which I thought were pretty difficult. But what that does is it raises the kids that are less inclined to learn fast. It raises their level up, and it keeps the high-level learners, the ones that are very smart and want a bigger challenge, it keeps them from moving forward, right? There's like a barrier, there's a ceiling, and there's also a floor. So it's very tight-knit. There's a low standard deviation of learners, or a lower in comparison to the US, where it is very challenged by choice in high school. I can take AP classes or go study abroad or take classes online that I can't get in my school and skip a grade in math, things like that, that allow me to elevate above the median and the average learner. But that also means because there's not as high of a floor, that kids are being left behind really low. And so while in Germany and France it's like this, it's more like that in the United States. And what's really interesting is that's reflected in the distribution of wealth in the economy. The United States distribution is everything up top and low, and you kind of forget about the bottom, right? And while that's a similar, if you look at the shape of it, it's a similar structure in every economy. It's much less dramatic in European countries like France and Germany. And so what's crazy is that starts in education. That's not all of it, obviously, but the way that you distribute your education ends up coming back to you in the economy and the distribution of wealth. And so I don't know if there's I keep saying it, so I gotta listen to myself and stop doing that. But I think that there's no correct way, there's no correct style of education there. It's just interesting to see the consequences of each style, because the United States has a higher GDP. We also have a much higher population, but we have higher wages and like a higher per capita GDP than Germany does, I believe. German per capita GDP. And the German per capita GDP is $52,745, and the United States GDP per capita is $81,695. And so, I said it so again, the United States makes much more money. It has a much more successful, in that way, economy than Germany does. But the distribution of that wealth is super skewed. So what's worth it? Don't really know. There's no correct answer. Isn't that crazy about life? There's never really one correct answer. It's something, as I grow older, I seem to notice a lot more. Oh, that was a good back crack. That I noticed that the smart people don't pretend to have answers. So when you surround yourself with a lot of less intelligent people, you end up thinking you know more, because people are more confident in what they know, and people assert themselves in knowing something, but they actually don't know it. I think that's really interesting. as I become more intelligent and gather more information and learn more about the world, the more naive I realized I was to think I knew what I did. It's a crazy concept. Yeah. I think about before I went to France, before I studied abroad, I really underestimated the difficulty of immersing yourself in a foreign culture and a foreign language all the time. As someone who hadn't had any experience with that sort of difficulty beforehand, I was not able to fully comprehend how difficult it would be to go there. And I think that naivete is very common among people in all sorts of life, in all sorts of facets in life. I believe that watching a few TV shows in French would help me, when I got there, understand the language. And I genuinely spoke almost no words. The first car ride with my host family, I didn't understand anything. I tried to speak with them in English, and I watched as my host sister, who was in the United States the year before and spoke English, just looked at me. It's like, en français, Jack, which means in French, Jack. You probably could have guessed that. But I had no idea it would be that hard. And that ability to challenge yourself like that with guardrails, because obviously the repercussions from that, although if that completely failed, if my study abroad completely failed, if I failed every class, learned nothing in French, whatever, it wouldn't have been all that bad. I would have just redone the year here. But I'm so lucky to have had the opportunity to challenge myself like that with guardrails. And that goes back to the education. I'm able to rise above the standard deviation because I have opportunities to challenge myself. I have opportunities to develop creative solutions to problems. So it drives the human species forward, as we started with. So it drives individuals forward as well. If you can constantly show yourself that you are able to develop creative solutions to difficult problems and continually develop more creative solutions to more difficult problems, you will build a confidence in yourself that says, hey, I can continue doing this, and I can continue developing creative solutions to difficult problems, even as the scale of difficulty rises, because I'm proving to myself over and over I'm capable of this. That's all confidence is. The belief in yourself that you're going to be able to develop a solution to a problem. Because problems are inevitable in life. There's no way you can't face a problem. You know that. It's not effective to try to mitigate all your problems in your life and try to eliminate every single source of a problem like a whack-a-mole, because a mole's always going to stick up. But if you can arm yourself to become properly defend any problem that comes your way, you'll be set. Spend your energy building inside yourself ways to effectively solve problems instead of trying to solve all the problems before they happen, because, like I said, you're never going to not run into problems. I think that's a good place to end this. There's a little bit of a rant. Less scripted than a lot of stuff. Just wanted to talk and see how that went. I appreciate you listening to this. I think, yeah, I'm going to stay consistent on this. I like this format. Got a new episode with a guest coming next Wednesday. Not this Wednesday, next Wednesday. I'm excited. Thanks for listening. Please drop a review. Love 5 stars if you liked it. 4 stars if you know what the stars mean. But be honest, I'm not asking for only 5 stars. I just want feedback. I just want to get better at this and improve. All right. Thanks for listening.